Frequently, we look far and wide in the angles of history in search for extraordinary figures for inspiration. What we normally don't do is search for these figures in places close to us. This is why we decided to take a look into the life of an exceptional person, our teacher, Rafael Giraldo.
Rafael Giraldo was born in Medellin, Colombia on June 23, 1963. As a member of a diplomatic family, he experienced extensive travel early in life. He was raised in Prague, Czechoslovakia during the Cold War of the 1970s. He attended the International School of Prague at Schönborn Palace. During this period, he had the opportunity to enhance his understanding of the immense cultural diversity of the world by first-hand interaction with other students representing a multitude of nationalities, backgrounds, religions, and ethnic origins. After living in Europe for 6 years, in 1977, Rafael returned to Colombia in 1982. He graduated from the Columbus School in Medellin.
Between 1983 and 1988, he studied law at Universidad de Medellin. During this period, he became deeply immersed in learning about the complex socio-political and economic dynamics of this developing country. In 2004, after more than 17 years in the business world, Rafael Giraldo embraced two new callings. He became a writer and a history teacher. This turning point has taken him to pursue graduate courses in both the Colonial Williamsburg Teacher Institute and Universidad de Salamanca in Spain. Rafael Giraldo is presently a graduate anthropology student at Florida Atlantic University. Wishing to teach his students a lesson in commitment, Rafael Giraldo cycled solo and unsupported for 149 days across 25 states, covering 6,730 miles of the North American continent, from the Pacific to the Atlantic, and from Maine to South Florida. Through his personal initiative of tour discovery, he turned the American landscape into one big classroom by taking over 18,000 photographs and 250 videos of majestic sceneries in California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida.
Learn as if you're going to live forever. Live as if you're going to die tomorrow. Because the reality is we don't know how long we're here. So while we're here, make the most of what you have. And the quote of Aristotle is incredible. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not a single act, it is a habit. If you follow those things in life, the product of what you're going to do with your time is going to be exceptional. And my idea is that the kids, it's a quote I don't change because it's eternal knowledge. And if you follow that, you're sure to succeed in whatever it is you do, because it requires effort from your part. And I don't believe in success without effort.
I never had the dream of becoming a history teacher. That wasn't my plans. But having lived in Czechoslovakia, in a country that's full of history, of castles, of ancient medieval technology, and then having the fortunate experience of having established a friendship with a Czech boy, and his father had the most fascinating job. Karen Pavek, his father, had the job of being an architect in charge of all the restoration projects of the castles of Bohemia. So as a kid, I got to experience history and technology and castles. And then my father, on the other side of the equation, my father was a history buff. And so he would take us throughout Europe to different locations, and he was very knowledgeable. So between that, my passion for reading, living in an environment where you basically were breathing history day in and day out, all those elements come together, and in the end, they make life become.
On 2007, Roundy Posh delivered the last lecture. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer months prior and knew his life had less than a year left. He took the chance and delivered what he wanted to live in this life before he moved on. Even though we know our existence is finite, we don't know when it's going to end. So we think it's essential for us to leave the last lecture thinking that it may be the last. For this reason, we asked Mr. Giraldo what would his last lecture be. What would his last lecture be about?
Last lesson. Here's the thing. Things work in cycles. Everything works in cycles. So whatever the lesson's going to be, and there could be a number of lessons. I don't think I could just boil it down to one, because life is very complex and it has many facets and it has many issues. But whatever that lesson is, it has to be foundational and it has to be something that my students can use in a meaningful way for life. And yeah, maybe my last lesson would be linked to that old Roman proverb, learn as if you're going to live forever and live as if you're going to die tomorrow. And let me explain why. In other words, it means use your time wisely, seize the day, carpe diem. To take the time you have, because what you have right now is all you have, and make it work for you and for those around you. But at the same time, be responsible, because you know what? You might not be here tomorrow. So take the opportunities life gives you, make the most of it, and leave a legacy. When we think that way, we construct not for 1 year, 2 years, but we construct for hundreds of years. One last thing. This is why in Japan, of all the people that are there, when the emperor shows up, the only ones that are not required to bow to the emperor are the teachers, the educators. Because the educators, if they're doing their job right, because sometimes you have really bad educators that should not be in the business of teaching, but if they're really doing their job with their heart and they're prepared, they're the ones that are responsible for transferring the knowledge from one generation to another. And that is timeless. So yes, I guess those would be my last lessons.